All right, happy Monday, everybody. We've got a race to determine the 5th and 6th seeds in the wild card. So let's get into it. We got a little double header, but before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's free. I appreciate it. And we've got Monday Night Football tonight, so we'll have a separate video on that. So make sure you got notifications on so you see when that video comes out. But before we talk about today's game, let's talk a little bit about yesterday, last day of the regular season. Eked out a very small profit, 0.31 units. We had Reds first 5, 0-0. So ended up getting hooked there, but it did pan out as we had the Reds in a parlay. And they won 3-0, so that was good. Phillies first 5 minus a half, very sweat free. New York Mets and Milwaukee under 8, pretty sweat free. It was 5-0 Mets. And then we talked about the parlay. So Dodgers came back from 1 down, scored 2 in the 8th, ended up winning that. I cannot believe the final score was 2-1 at Coors, but it is what it is. We ended up losing Tampa Bay Rays first 5. I think it was 3-1 after 5, so a little disappointing there. San Diego Padres first 5 over 1.5, just could not get to Brandon Pfaadt. So got one pretty early on and just couldn't get that second run for us. And then we ended up losing the Yankees, Phillies, Braves parlay. Braves let us down there. That would have been nice. Prop leans, we went 2 and 4. Ober ended up getting, I think, 4 Ks. We needed 6, so that sucks. Gilbert under 7.5 Ks. I think I said he was going to end up at 7, and that's exactly where he ended up. Birdsong under 4.5 hits. He ended at 4, so we hit that one. Corbin Carroll just couldn't get the job done. He went 0 for 4 with a walk and scored a run. So he got us 1. We needed 2. Brent Rooker went 0 for 4, so GG on that one. And then Charlie Blackmon, we had him over 1.5 total bases. I didn't know they were going to pull him at the 3rd inning, so he ended up getting a single in the 3rd, and they pulled him, so that sucks. Nerfies, we went 3 and 1. The only one we missed was the Mets and the Brewers. Mets scored 1 run in the top of the 1st, so ended up going 3 and 1 there. So not bad at all. All right, let's talk about playoff scenarios because it is kind of interesting how everything pans out. So if you are the D-backs, you need one team to win both games. So someone has to sweep for the D-backs to get in, and they would get the 6th seed. If you are the Braves or the Mets, it's 1 win and in. So either way, they just need to win. If the Braves win 1 game, they are in, and they would get the 5 seed, and they would play the Padres. If the Braves get swept, they're out of the playoffs, and the Diamondbacks are in. The Mets get a 5 seed with a sweep, a 6 seed if they split. So again, the Mets and the Braves, they just need to win 1 game each. So that's going to factor into Game 2 pitching. So we'll talk a little bit about all that fun stuff. But Game 1 here is going to be Tyler Meatball McGill going up against Spencer Schwellenbach. Now, Game 2 is kind of loosely slated for Luis Severino and Chris Sale. One of those 2 guys will be pitching, depending on who wins. Right? If the Mets win, then the Braves most certainly pitch Chris Sale, and there's no way they would pitch Luis Severino, and vice versa. So Game 2 is going to be a little fluid. We'll just kind of have to see how that goes. But I love whoever. I think this is going to be a split. If the Braves win today, they're going to sit their starters in Game 2. They're not going to pitch Chris Sale. So I love a split here. I'd say it's highly, highly likely we see a split. And I'm sure that'll be reflected in the odds. And if you notice, the odds have not come out for Game 2 for that reason. Well, let's talk a little bit about Game 1. Meatball McGill, Spencer Schwellenbach. If we look at McGill, he's got a 4.81 away ERA. Schwellenbach a 3.62 home ERA. Schwelly's given up 2 or less earned runs in his last 3 starts, and he's faced this team already 2 times this year. He is 2-0 with a 0.64 ERA. So he's got 14 innings pitched, given up 5 hits, 1 earned run, and 15 Ks. So he's striking them out at a pretty high clip. He just faced this team most recently on the 24th. So just faced them in his last start. He's looked pretty good as of late. You know, if we look at Schwellenbach, like I said, he went 7 innings against the Mets. Previous start to that, he was at Cincinnati, went 6 innings, only gave up 1 earned. Pretty good at GABP. And then prior to that, he faced the Dodgers, went 6 innings, only gave up 2. So really good there. Previous 2 starts to that, gave up 3 and 2. But I mean, this guy's been 2 or less earned runs in 5 of his last 6. So he's got good momentum coming into the day. If we look at McGill, doesn't have the best track record against the Braves. So he's 1-4 with almost a 5 career ERA versus the Braves since 2021. So he's got 10 games against this lineup, or against this team, I should say. He has given up 3 or more runs in his last 4 starts versus Atlanta. So that's 1 game this year, and then 3 games faced him last year. So not a great track record there, but in terms of recency, he's been pitching really well. He's only given up 1 earned run in his last 3 games, and that was in his last outing to Philly. He gave up 1 run. He gave up no runs to Washington, and he didn't give up any at Toronto. So since he's been recalled from AAA, he's got 4 games under his belt. He's 1-0 with a 1.80 ERA. So he is trending in a pretty good direction here. We look at his splits in terms of Ks. He's been doing okay. He only had, he had 6 Ks in his last outing, 6, 4, 9, and 3 in terms of Ks. In terms of how long he's been going, he's only been averaging about 5 innings. So it's really kind of the walks that get him into trouble. He does tend to go deeper into counts, so therefore he doesn't go super far into games. If we look at the scoring, my concern here is more around the scoring. Neither team is hitting really well with runners in scoring position over the last week anyway. Over the last 7 days, Mets are hitting 125 with runners in scoring position. That is basically worst in baseball. But the Braves aren't too far behind, hitting 143. Now, if we go back over an extended period of time, we see over the last 30 days, Mets are 6th in baseball, hitting 286 with runners in scoring position. Even better over the last 14 days at 291, which would put them 4th. Braves are just kind of not good. 226 last 30, 200 last 14. So not great there. We look at pitch splits for both pitchers. Tyler McGill giving up a 196 average to lefties over the past 30 days, 175 to righties. So throwing the ball really well. Schwellenbach, 290 to lefties, 200 to righties. So I would say that kind of favors the Mets. In terms of pitch splits, McGill, I see some concerns here. Over the last 30 days, Braves are the 3rd best at hitting the fastball, which McGill throws 56% of the time, throws the cutter about 13% of the time. The Braves are number 1 over the last 30 days hitting the cutter. But McGill throws a ton of pitches just like Schwellenbach. Schwellenbach throws 5 pitches. McGill, basically a 5-pitch guy. He throws a changeup every once in a while, about 1.4% of the time. But he is mainly a kind of a curveball slider, split sinker, cut, 4-seam guy. So lots of different pitches these guys throw. Really, for Schwellenbach, the only thing of concern is his cutter, which he throws about 16% of the time. Mets are 2nd in the last 30 days hitting that. Other than that, about middle of the road in everything else that he throws. So nothing there. In terms of batting, Mets and Braves really over the last 7 days haven't hit the ball extremely well. Mets are hitting 185 versus right-handed pitching over the last 7 days, WRC plus of 56. So if you're not aware, 100 is kind of the baseline there. So not great. Striking out at a pretty high clip, about 25%, and not walking a ton either. So not great. If we look at the Braves over the last 7 days, hitting 204, 76 WRC plus, 22% K rate, and about the same walk rate. So none of these guys are walking a ton. But if we look over the last 14, there is a lean towards the Braves, hitting 251 versus the Mets hitting 238 versus right-handed pitching. Let's see. So for me, I would say Braves. I am leaning Braves. I think if we look at the Braves, they've been home for the better part of a week now. The Mets have been traveling all around, so I would say the rest advantage is with the Braves, being that they've been home. They do have a better bullpen. Bullpen, a 3.30 over the last 30 days. Mets, 3.96. I would give them a hefty bullpen advantage. They have less innings pitched on the year, so there is less wear and tear on this bullpen. I think there is a clear edge to taking the Braves, but I like the Braves first 5 -0.5 would be my favorite play there. If we look at the pitching report, maybe you guys can drum up some bets off of this. McGill walks is pretty highly favored to go over that 1.5 line, although it is juiced to about minus 200. We look at park factors here. Home runs up plus 2%, runs plus 2%. So we are going to have the wind blowing out. It's going to be about 76 degrees, so pretty damn great baseball weather. Partly cloudy weather, so I like it for scoring with about a 6-mile-an-hour wind blowing out. In terms of rankings and best bets, so I like the Braves to win game 1, and then I would hammer the Mets in game 2, or vice versa. Basically, whoever loses game 1, I do love a split here. In terms of best bets for the day, so I do like over 7.5 runs in this spot. So I can see one of these pitchers should get hit fairly hard. I think they get a couple runs off the bullpen, but I like runs in this first game. And then we already talked about Braves first 5 minus a half at minus 115. Only parlay I have for game 1 is going to be Schwellenbach to have 5 Ks, Atlanta team total over 3.5. There's no way Atlanta wins this scoring less than 4. So if I believe they're going to win the first game, then they're going to score more than 3.5. And then Atlanta money line. So pair those together, you get plus 138. So it's a little, I'd like it to be a little heavier than plus 138, but that's kind of where it's at. Or you can take Atlanta and the over. So I looked at a couple different things there. That's just the parlay I liked. Prop leans for today, Schwellenbach over 1.5 earned runs. Really juiced at minus 170, so maybe one to avoid, but I think it's unlikely he gives up less than 2. But I think he goes deep into this game as well. McGill under 5.5 hits. Like I said, he doesn't go very long into games. So I think he's under this line. I would assume the Mets are going to be really quick to pull him because the last person you want to face in game 2 would be like Chris Sale. Although I guess you wouldn't face him, so we'll see. But he doesn't last a long time. I would say this under 5.5 is pretty safe. Over 1.5 walks. I mean, he's highly likely he goes over this. And they give me Francisco Lindor over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at minus 140. I just like this spot. So that's what I've got for best bets in the review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you in the next video.